Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Stacking Dubs. I'm your host, Chris Chinn, and I am just trying to make it through this Monday. It was a rough weekend for our Bay Area sports teams. Niners seem to be all but buried here. We don't even have to get into it, but with the injuries and just the terrible play and just the lack of interest it seems this team has, the Niners are not making things any easier on this diehard Bay Area fan over here, particularly because the Warriors are also on a losing streak of their own. Just lost their fourth straight, this time to the Phoenix Suns at home, and oh man, I mean, it was a close enough game, and I mean, you could on the glass half full side, you can say that the Suns shot over 50% from three. I think they made 18 threes in the game, and yeah, I mean, you could just look at the shooting and say that the Suns just kind of shot better in this, and that's why the Warriors lost by 8 points or so. But in reality, I think we were exposed and we're starting to realize, the limitations of this team. The point of attack defense, the perimeter defense just got absolutely shredded, just couldn't stay in front of the Suns ball handlers, and in turn were put into rotation. And it was just one open shot from three after the next. Looked a lot like last year, where just the perimeter D and then the lack of an interior presence to divert rim attackers from basically getting to the hoop and then subsequently kicking out to other shooters. Just not, it seems we're always one man short defensively at this point, especially since we lost Melton. There's one great point in the year, when we were playing the Mavericks, where it's, hey, you can throw Melton, Wiggins, GP2 could be in there at the same time, and you have Draymond Green behind, and that defensive lineup is why we were saying this might be the best defense in the NBA. But you lose one of those pieces, and some of those other pieces just aren't quite two-way players, or just not as effective or as young as they can be. And because of that, this defense, which was looking strong, looking tough, playing with force, now finds itself on its heels, just kind of clinging to threads and just trying to hold on enough to win hard-fought games. And we've seen, as we playing higher levels of competition and just better offenses in general, that this defense, it's just not what it had been earlier in the season for many reasons. Another primary one, if we're just going to get into it, is that teams are understanding the Warriors' high blitzing trapping scheme, and they're starting to set flat ball screens, meaning that you're setting a screen knowing that the Warriors are going to bring that double team and trap you and force you to one side. But because now the ball screen is flat, the ball handler can go either right or left. And the screen adjusts. And so it makes it a little harder to double team because now you don't know which side to help from, to rotate from. And so the offenses are starting to do a little bit more of that against the Warriors' defensive blitzing and in turn getting better looks. And the Warriors have struggled to combat that. You can go to where you're switching screens, but now the matchups were not usually a switch everything team. Now you find yourselves in disadvantaged matchups, and when you just don't have the length, the athletes, or the rim protection behind you, you find yourself facing teams that are going to be shooting high percentages from threes and really just getting a lot higher percentage looks than you're hoping to give up. A lot of that one, a lot of that in this past game against the Suns, and obviously they have the firepower and the stars to make you pay whenever they get an open look. So that was part of the reason. And then just flipping to the other side of the ball, you're also seeing the very, very limited offensive ceiling that this team has. I mean, it starts with Steph Curry, coming back. We can talk about his knees a little bit more, but based on his post game interview, seems like his knees felt okay. Kind of had to ease into it just to see how they'd be. It's just really just tendonitis in both knees, and it's going to be something he has to manage, for probably the next month or so, I would guess. So just kind of keep the minutes down, keep the usage down. But the problem is, especially with the opponents the Warriors have coming up, can you afford to? How many possessions can you afford to not have Steph be the primary facilitator, shooter, just your everything? The answer is it needs to be he needs to be a little bit more high usage if we're going to win these games, because if you're just playing the middle, keeping Steph fresh ish and keeping him from icing those knees too much, then you're probably not going to be winning games because you don't have good enough secondary creation skills. You don't have another shot creator. You don't have guys that are red hot like we started the season shooting the ball to offset the lack of Steph Curry just taking on, 50, 60 possessions with the ball in his hands. So they were finding that, hey, we're limited, a little bit limited on defense, a little limited on offense. And, there's pretty simple answers to it, but those answers it's simple to identify what we need. The answer is a lot more complex to find players that fit multiple needs at the same time. You see from last year, the commonalities is that we have just too many one-way players. You have a lot of GP2s that are great defenders, but then now you have holes on offense. And I can go down the list, but we all know each player has something they do very well and something that they have a lot to be desired, left to be desired. And because of that, Warriors, they're mixing and matching lineups a lot. They're playing a hot hand a lot. But as we'll get into in a bit, this 12, 13 man lineup, it's run its course. The point was to keep everybody a little fresher, play the depth. If everyone keeps playing well, you keep rolling with it. Well, not everyone's playing well. And sure, we've kept the minutes down a little bit on our veterans, but even then you're seeing the wear and tear. So I think we're gonna have to consolidate, and I'll give you my ideas on that in just a bit when we get to it. But just a little bit more about this game specifically. Steph, like I was saying, very slow start in this one. Zero field goals in the first half. Warriors were actually in it in the first half. They were down basically the difference that the Suns 3 points shooting was out shooting them by. So you could say, in the margins and just kind of holding their own, the Warriors were in it. But again, just because the Suns happened to shoot better doesn't mean that they weren't just creating much better looks and getting whatever they wanted. So it can be misleading in a sense as well that way. I thought, okay, well, Pajemski started this one, and I thought this was one of his better games. He got back to kind of doing what you want with him with a lineup with Steph and Draymond and Wiggins, and that's just pushing the ball, getting out, giving you a secondary ball hand there. You could say he creates shots in his own sense just by getting the ball moving, getting the defense kind of rotating a little bit, but without the threat of being a true scorer, especially getting to the hoop. The defense is never really collapsing like you see the Warriors often do on the other side of the ball. And because of that, I mean, that's your only other creator of space other than Steph Curry. That's why you're finding Steph, especially with these starting lineups, not really getting any space to work. It's why Jonathan Kuminga also, even once he comes in, is just not getting enough space to work. There's just no one else ball handling that, even better than we miss Melton, but you just need somebody who's a true on-ball guard that can create for others and for themselves. And we just don't have it. And any element of that just that's available on the trade market also doesn't play defense. So I just don't know if that helps coming. But anyways, I thought Pajemski played better in this one. Little, took I think 2 charges, continues to lead the league in charges drawn. One of the silver linings of Pajemski's play that will always be there. With that, he also takes a beating, and we'll see how sustainable that is in the long term. But at least he's making an impact defensively. He's active on defense, and I thought the starters got off to a lead. They think the first 6 minutes we were +3 and things were humming. I think every starter had an assist in the first quarter. So you see when the Warriors are playing their best brand of basketball and things are going right, they're not turning the ball over, which they're pretty good last against the Suns. I think they only had 9 turnovers. When they're shooting, in the 40 percentile, that's when they're winning games. But it's all the games in between when things aren't going perfectly that they just don't have enough talent to beat teams like the Suns. Speaking of talent, well, where is that going to come from? I mean, we don't have to get into the external trade options right now, but internally, I mean, how can we free up Jonathan Kuminga to be better? I think we all agree that he has the most upside and room to grow out of everyone on this roster. Yeah, I don't care how bad he's playing. Jonathan Kuminga can't be playing only 5 minutes and a half. Only 5 minutes in the first half. No, he didn't have a field goal. He wasn't playing great, but he was getting to the free throw line. I think he had 6 free throws in the first half. You can just see when he's in, it just gives you that difference in your offensive, the geometry, right? The defense has to respect it, has to give help because Kuminga can attack and get downhill at any point, and that is really a source of shot creation in itself. But when it's just such fragmented minutes and just such a short leash, and you're just not letting him get into the game. We see that Kuminga gets better and better as he gets further into the game, kind of those, the 25th through 35th minute, if he gets there, he's playing pretty well once he's settled and just kind of calmed down. And so for that reason, I tend to side with Steve Kerr, but it's just been very consistent. His handling of Jonathan Kuminga, he's tried different things. He's tried, tough love. He's tried letting him play a bit more in past seasons. And that's when you saw Kuminga get, averaging 20 points a game for that long stretch last year. I think based on those two options I just said, I need to see Kuminga play it through. You need to play him at the 4. You need to just say, hey, I got to play Draymond more minutes at the 5. For all the reasons I know Draymond doesn't want to play the 5, and you have to take care of him and his physical shape and protect him from injury against these bigger centers. You're just not going to reach your team and your offense's peak, ceiling, or competitive contending level until Jonathan Kuminga is unleashed and playing in the right fit with the right spacing and playing enough minutes. That's on the offensive side of the ball. I understand defensively that he has a ways to go. It just seems like he's always kind of like on his heels. He's always just like a half step out of position. And so for everything great that Jerry Stackhouse has done for this team, we've heard it from Draymond, put this team, hold this team accountable. He's got his little defensive scoring system. Everyone's playing hard. We're blitzing. The defense has been great until recently. I want to see Jerry Stackhouse. Can you teach a young player, the fundamentals of defense? Can we work on his technique? Can we teach him the things that he should have learned had he gone to college and not just gone straight to the G League? Imagine him playing for like a Tom Izzo for 2 years, even, with a Draymond Green there, and you're just learning the fundamentals of where you need to be, how you need to be postured, just decision making on the defensive end, not reaching, not fouling. It's the college years, right? That's why Steph Curry, for being as undersized as he was early in his career, and it's the 3 years he spent at Davidson that he learned to be a good enough defender to win at a championship level, right? Like Steph Curry, for everything you want to say, though, sure, like stuff gets pushed around this and that. The ultimate test is, hey, like, are you good enough to defend at the championship level when LeBron James is going to get you switch and attack you every possession? And can you hold up enough times for your team to win at the highest level? Curry's proven that point. So, forever you want to say about Curry's defense, it's always been good enough, at least to win 4 championships. So, that's just nothing more than understanding where to be, wanting to be great at defending, just understanding the team concept and just having good fundamentals. That's what Kuminga lacks. And that's what's going to get Kuminga more playing time and get him to, really put it together as a more two-way player in this league. I guess for all we've said about, the worst coaches in the past, I'd like to see more player development. It's not as much about, how much you're playing players or, who you're playing them with, as much as, can we develop the fundamentals when needed? Can you make your players the best version of themselves on both sides of the ball? You see like an Andrew Wiggins, the Warriors, I thought did a great job getting him to become a two-way player. Can we see the same amount of Jonathan Kuminga? Is it on the coaches or is it on Kuminga? A little bit of both, but that's where I would say, hey, this team needs to, prioritize finding a way to get Kuminga on the floor, whatever it takes, whoever it has to be with, and whatever technique he needs to improve. Let's just get it done. All right, let's talk about shortening the rotation, because I think even Steph Curry said after the game, I think this 13-man rotation, I'm not quoting him here, but you can tell by the sense of his tone that it's time to consolidate. And there's going to be consequences of it. There's going to be more minutes and more wear and tear on players, but you got to win some games. Win the games now, get yourself in a playoff position, get the rest later in the season if you need it. Got to win the games now. Got to stop this losing streak. So here's kind of my shortened rotation, and it definitely depends on matchups and it depends how people are playing. But at this current point in time, again, so we'll just call it, random opponents. I think the first thing I would do is it needs to be Looney, not TJD with that starting lineup. I would honestly take TJD out of the rotation for the moment, depending how Looney's playing. You just see, we know we can win with Looney at center. Looney for the past several years has been one of the worst finishers on offense in the league. Much improved this year, much more agile. I think even though he's not knocking down his free throws. He's finding ways to get to the line and just finish well, from inside 5 feet, much, much better than in past years. And because of that, we already know what he brings defensively. I need more minutes for Looney. And if you got to take someone out of the rotation, I think it's TJD for the time being. And you're just trusting Draymond, Looney, and then sometimes Kyle Anderson at that center, and let's just see how that works. But we don't need to be. I think playing the Dre TJD combination, it's just not going to work enough because you can't get Kuminga in that lineup, and it's just I need TJD out just for a little while to see how the team responds with Looney. I also think Moody or Lindy, right? Any given time, it could be one or the other based on, who's shooting better. I think Lindy gives you a little bit better defense, Moody a little bit better offense. They're maybe Lindy a slightly better shooter, but they're pretty comparable shooting, but Moody gives you a little bit more to the hoop. Lindy probably just a more solid decision maker, but Moody's got a little more upside and just kind of the get you extra possessions. So it needs to be one or the other, right? They can't both be playing, 15 minutes a game. I need one of them to be playing 20 minutes a game. I would say start with Moody. Let's see what we got. Lindy, we got a good look at you over the last 5-6 games. Let's see what Moody can do and just kind of commit to it. Say, hey, we're gonna run this next month. Let's give it whatever that is. It is 15 games, maybe slightly shorter, but give it 12 games. Lindy, you're out. Moody, you're in. If Moses hits a cold streak, you let him play through it. You keep him at his minutes. He hits a prolonged cold streak and you see it's not working, then we could talk about kind of substituting Lindy back into the fray. But I'd say for now, TJD out of the rotation, Lindy out of the rotation. Thirdly, it's going to be matchup based, but GP2, I do love you. I love the energy you brought. And I thought that, hey, we did win some games because of your energy as a defensive player and in transition. But on a matchup based night, if you don't have an elite De'Aaron Fox, John Morant, just an elite point guard or a combo guard on the other side, I'm sitting GP and I'm trying to get my offense going. We kind of know what this defense can be. I know point of attack defense is a huge problem, but I think the offense is the bigger issue here, and the offense is at its ceiling. You've seen this offense shoot 45% from three and really just everyone be on fire, and it's been great, but that's all this offense is going to be. It's come back down to earth, and you don't have enough spacing. You don't really have enough shooting when you're playing guys like GP2, TJD. We need to get this offense going. It's an offense beats defense league. I think if I had any complaint about Steve Kerr, and it kills me to say this, it's always Steve Kerr is always, defense first, fundamentals first. I love that. But again, in this NBA, you got to get your offense unlocked. You got to get Steph Curry some more spacing. Otherwise, you're going to wear him into the ground trying to create just through the physicality of a set compacted defense. So again, to recap, TJD, Lindy, GP2, I would sit them for now. Let's shorten this to a 10 man rotation as best possible. Let's go small a bit more, play Draymond at center. You have to unlock Kuminga. We need to find more spacing. Again, I can't say it enough. Kuminga, Curry need more space or this offense isn't going to work. And if that doesn't work, then you just have to go make a trade, or you just live with a long losing streak that we're staring straight in the eye right now as we head into December. It's the Nuggets tomorrow, and then you have a whole gauntlet more of Timberwolves, Lakers. Who am I missing? It doesn't matter. We're focused on this next game. Let's go get Jokic. You're gonna have to play a bunch of Looney in this one. Have them body Jokic up a bit, and then let's just get out, run them, and get back on the right side of things. All right, my dudes, stacking dubs. We've been slacking. We've been toppling dubs lately. Let's get back on the right side. You just got to lay that foundation, get one win first, and then we'll get back to that stack. All right. Don't forget, subscribe, like this channel. I've been working hard to try to get this channel off the ground. Been loving what I'm doing. Thank you so much for the support lately. Continue to subscribe. And until next time, I'm Chris Chinn. Peace, love, and stacking dubs.